I want to say hi to everybody. My name is Derek Hall. I'm the president of Charter Real Estate School. I'm here with Jasmine Willois. I said that right? Willois?
You did. You nailed it.
Yes.
Professional.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to pretend that's the first time I've tried it, but I'm happy that I did get it right at least this time. And today we're going to have a good conversation about education and how that can inform where we kind of can go in life. And I think that's important for me, particularly as an educator. I am the owner of Charter Real Estate School. In addition to owning Charter Real Estate School, I am also co-host of the $1 Million Thinking web series. And normally I'd have my co-hosts with me, Taiwan Anthony and Brian Phillips. But today, this is a special occasion, just Jasmine and I chopping it up, having a good old-fashioned conversation. Now, you and I, Jasmine, we only met very recently, and so I don't want to pretend that I know your whole backstory. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself. That way we get it all out there about how you want to represent yourself, because I do know that besides wearing a lot of pink and playing golf and investing in
my new reputation. I love it.
It's a good one though. You play golf, you wear pink, you invest in mortgages, so like there's a lot that goes into that. So I want to let you introduce yourself, and then we'll just kind of jump in and take the conversation wherever it goes.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Derek. For those of you who are frequent the space that Derek and Anthony provide, which we're very fortunate to have, I was actually speaking at an event a few days ago, so hopefully you can catch that as well on the NYC Networking Group YouTube page.
That's
so
right.
Definitely shout out to that platform. But yeah, that would be a great place to start. We just did a few, I had a member of my community come on and kind of give a testimonial to what this is all about. So without too much more suspense, yes, my name is Jasmine. I am the president of the Note Assistance Program. And what is that? We tried to put it all in the title. So Note Assistance and Program.
That's right.
So the program that gives you note, assistance, or maybe the words, flip them around a little bit. But we really try to
notes through the program.
Yes, we really try to keep it very simple in that name, not complicated. And that's kind of a tribute to our proprietary training system. So what we do offer is a pretty grassroots, very distilled, basic entry level to learning how to become a mortgage loan investor. So mortgage loan investing is, to many people, I just spoke to someone today, very successful entrepreneur, mind blown, hat off, if you will. You can invest in mortgage loans. I never thought about that. So just on that standpoint alone, a lot of people are not even aware that this opportunity exists. So that's mission number one. Get it out there.
Exactly.
This is one of the best kept secrets. Banks cover it and keep to themselves. And there's a reason for it. And that reason is very, very similar to the same reason why you find a bank in every county and every city with the biggest building. Okay?
Right, yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, that's the mission here, is to just educate people about the opportunity. After that, if you find that you're in a place where you can take advantage of that, we want to make sure that you can do that fearlessly. Okay, and that often comes with, as you know, training, right? Having a mentorship.
Exactly. Yep.
So
I love it. All right, so that leads me to my first question, because I personally don't know a lot about buying mortgage notes, but I do have some familiarity with it. Okay. So, for example, before I started the real estate school, I'd actually worked with a real estate investor out here in New York City.
Okay.
And we eventually got approached by someone who worked for a mortgage company and said they could help us buy notes, and it sounded very much on the up and up, but I'm not sure if the person we were speaking to was on the up and up. You know what I mean? It was, he's trying to tell us that we could get into underperforming notes, and he was going to be sending us everything we needed from the bank. And I didn't trust.
How long ago was this?
This was
quite some time ago.
This was 3 years ago.
Oh, okay, so not too long ago. Yeah, I gotta tell you, that's usually the first reaction. Although you have the nicest one. We usually just, when I was introduced, I flat out said it was illegal. I didn't think it was a man bringing it to me. I didn't think anyone. It was just, I just said, hey, leave me alone.
Right, exactly. It doesn't sound right.
Yeah. So it's one of those opportunities that you do, especially when you're seasoned like us. You've been around the block. You're like, there's got to be a reason I haven't heard about this, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so definitely great reaction. That probably means you're ready for this business.
Right. That's good. My instincts are
Uh,
good.
yeah, your instincts are good because it is that. It's a shark's waters that you're swimming in. I mean, this is where the big banks are swimming. So you definitely
Right.
have to come in prepared to know where you are. And that's the reason, as far as I'm concerned, that it is not out there for everybody to know about and for the public, because it's very dangerous. It comes with a lot of risk.
Right.
And so those are the things that we want to train you to make sure that you are available to just buckle down and handle, right? So
Right.
risk mitigation is really where I come from. That's one of my strengths of my background. And so I'll
Right.
get into that a little bit. But what I do want to let you know is that risk mitigation, if that's a term that you feel comfortable with, it's not, is this riskless? Not is there no risk involved?
Exactly.
Okay?
There's a
Those
difference.
are the things that I don't want to hear that make me run. When you tell me there's tons of risk, but here's how you're going to manage that risk,
Exactly.
I'm going to put on my cowboy hat and I'm going to jump on. Okay? I'm
Right.
going to get on that thing and let's get going.
That's right. Yeah. If
So
there's no risk, that's a problem for sure. Nothing is
right,
without
so
risk.
that's the instinct you were probably rattling off, but it sounds so good, great profits. You're like, where's the risk?
Yeah.
And so we lead with that with our program. But as far as my background is concerned, I have a degree in economics, undergrad in industrial organization. I spent my first couple of years day trading out there with you. I'm originally from
Right.
New York. So for those of you familiar with Wall Street, I worked right there on Maiden Lane. It was awesome.
Lane, that's right.
Yeah, right across from Federal Reserve Building. And, to age myself, it was Alan Greenspan back then.
Greenspan. Yep.
And so
I remember Alan.
yeah, I bring that up because that often reminds me of how much of a trader I am. Okay, and so we
Right.
actually would gamble every morning on based upon which way the market would go based upon his briefcase. So his briefcase would either be shut or it'd be like shut with papers falling out of it. And so depending on,
Right.
we'd see him walk like, ooh, everybody short the market today. Everyone short
Right, exactly. It's been a rough day already. So yeah.
So just having fun
I like
with
that.
it,
I
but
like that.
that's where I get my risk side from, right? I'm used to day trading. I'm used to learning how to handle risk. So if you're a more seasoned investor for as that, then I think this is going to really work for you because again, it's full of risk. It's a very cash intensive business. So a lot of the risk you even bring upon yourself. But our program is here to make sure that you can at least be told, the right and the wrong, and be guided along paths that can help you be successful in the business. So I've taken my background as an equity trader. I was raised on real estate. And so for those of you who know me on the East Coast, my family moved out here when I was young, went to high school out here. And in that, most of everyone has a real estate license. Let's just say that.
Okay, nice. So I need to be opening up out there.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where the real estate is just like New York, except I would say a little less frenzy, but same, the commissions are heavy. So you can make a good living selling out here. But with that said, so my family was in property management. So that's where I learned really the other side of the investing part of it, which is what the actual asset it requires to maintain it.
Exactly,
right?
yes. Very important piece that people don't often think about.
Fill the vacancies. Or if you're from that side, that's all you think about, and you don't think about the trading piece of it. It's like, wait, I can trade a mortgage. I can actually trade these things.
Yeah. See, so you're like, so this is a phrase I like to use often is uniquely qualified. You're almost built for it, So
it's funny you say that. So I was on the phone with someone today and he said, how did you fall into this? I mean, how did you stumble into this? People, I just imagine people don't just fall into this. And I said, well, I did, of course.
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah.
I fell into it because I was kind of in the making, right? I have to fall in because of my background. It's like this leads you to falling into this.
Exactly, right.
Yeah,
and I had a similar conversation about myself as well, like for many different reasons, but you're right. There are certain times where it feels like this is where it's always been leading, or at least you're able to connect the dots in ways other people haven't because, you have, like you said, the understanding of both sides of it.
And that's exactly what I was going to say just to the audience out there is that whatever your past is that leading you here to this webinar, understand it's going to help you because I can almost guarantee you wherever you live right now. And, if you want to just entertain us and get involved, let us know, shout out where you are in chat, tell us where you are. But I can almost guarantee you wherever you are, when you go home tonight and start telling your crowds that you can buy a mortgage, okay, never mind individually, and invest in this successfully and wait for it. A non-performing mortgage.
Exactly.
So Jasmine's buying mortgages that someone hasn't paid on in 10 years.
Exactly.
You're going to get ignored real quick.
Right. Right. It's a real recipe for a visit to the loony bin, right?
Right. I've been there before. So,
yeah.
So it looks like we've got a few people out here that are just shouting out where they live and everything. But really, just want to let you know that it's a unique opportunity. And like you said, your background lends to it. So I'm loving the fact that you involved with mortgages, right? So tell me a little bit more about your background, because I'm really trying to see how you can fit into this.
Sure. So for me, I learned almost everything I know about real estate working at this company called Property Shark, ironically
Oh
enough,
yeah,
to
yeah,
keep
that's right.
things still going. So I worked for Property Shark for about 13 years. And my role at Property Shark it grew over the years. So I started out kind of just doing customer service. And for those of you that are uninitiated, Property Shark is a property database. It collects and aggregates information from various county sources and makes it available through the propertyshark.com website. So it's a resource for various industries within real estate. So agents are using it, investors are using it,
So we're
lenders are
using it over
using it,
here.
appraisers.
Yep,
Yeah,
banks.
exactly.
Yep.
Like everyone who needs the information that can't, doesn't feel like going to 15 government sites can just go to Property Shark.
Amen.
And so when you start out in customer service, you have to know how all these different people use the product. So you have to know
Yeah.
everything about the product and how the different people
How's
use it.
applicable?
And
Right.
so I enjoyed that part of it. I was able to understand what people were doing so much so that I was kind of basically giving trainings over the phone. And they were like, well, we're going to pull you off the phone and just start sending you out. And so that became my job. I started going out to the offices and training people, for an hour at a time, how to use the actual product. And again, forming it based on how their industry works.
And that
So
lends to so well to what we're talking about here, because the biggest piece with mortgage loan investing that a lot of people don't realize is that it's all about the upfront due diligence. Okay. And a
exactly.
majority of it we do at the desktop. We call it desktop due diligence here at my firm.
I like that. Yeah.
But that's the bottom line. Like not 80% of the due diligence we're going to do is online. So we're using sources like Rental Meter, Property
Yes.
Shark, all
I know the
these
guy that started Rental
REI,
Meter.
yeah, all those things that we use. So one thing I want to let everyone know, this side of the business is 100% about information.
Yeah.
Okay. It's about arbitrage, what what the person selling doesn't know about it. Okay. And whether it comes in the value. And so that's where we use the same tools, many of the same tools that you renters and everyone use out there, traditional real estate investors, but we just use them in a different form. And that is what the key is because when I talk to people like yourself and have tons of experience in the industry, in industries related to notes, because they're all real estate backed. One of the biggest challenges is helping them understand is like, listen, we're going to use those same tools, but you have to look at that same information differently.
Exactly.
It means something entirely different.
Right. I like that. I like that a lot because it's the same thing where almost, I was a running back growing up when I played football.
Okay.
That was my position. And I got scouted for rugby day one in college.
I can see it. I can see
it.
it.
Yeah, they're like, you look like you should be playing rugby. But for me, it was just so similar and different at the same time. So it's that same thing. It's like, yeah, I carried the ball a similar way, but I throw it backwards, and so.
Right. That'll get you messed up in football.
Exactly right, exactly. So yeah, I definitely feel you on that. You got to take something that's very similar and just say it's not that anymore. And that's a unique skill that a lot of people don't always have.
What was that?
It's a unique skill that not everybody has. It's difficult sometimes because, like, even when I was teaching Property Shark, like, hey, I know everything there is to know about Property Shark. Am I really going to learn? It's like, 4 things, and you think that's all of it because that's what you know to do. So, but there's so much more to it.
Yeah. And so that's if we're able to get anything across to people who might be interested in mortgage loan investing, you're definitely going to have to be able to expand your current mindset. And in turn, what's huge about that is you will really in turn expand your portfolio and your ability to profit, right? So you're looking at a young lady who is just excited every day because I can take advantage of a real estate opportunity in anyone's backyard. Okay. We've made money in Arkansas. The other day I was making money in Gary, Indiana, which people are like, what? Yeah, Gary, Indiana, Bessemer, Alabama. These are places I've yet to visit, have no idea if I'll ever get a chance to. But, if I can analyze a deal and see that deal from right here in my home in Southern California and capitalize on it, that is what I feel is the difference because a lot of these licenses we have are restrictive, right?
Yeah, exactly. Location-wise, particularly.
Yeah.
Now, so that brings me actually to my next question because I do want to talk more about the specifics, but I think one important thing to point out is this is not a funnel, right? You're actually offering a legit program to teach people to think. Because, like, a lot of times
you got to stop here to learn.
Come buy my book for free, and then you got to buy this, and you get that class, and you got to go over there.
Yeah, no.
And I get the feeling this is very much not that.
No, you got to come here ready to learn. I mean, here's what I will tell you is that we do have places for you to stop before you come here. Okay, so not everyone's ready to join us because we are a place that we want to take action. But yeah, we've got books that we would recommend you to read. We're just not selling them to you. Okay.
Right. There you go. That's good. That's right. That's how you know it's legit.
I like it.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the process itself, because you mentioned underperforming. And so for me, again, with Property Shark, one of our big claims to fame was the foreclosure information, right?
Oh
When
yeah.
that person's got the loose pendants written against them, and they're going to lose the house here in New York in a year or so. And that's when people are coming in trying to buy the actual property
Hmm.
before it goes to the auction. How underperforming are there, and does foreclosure factor in when you're talking about buying notes?
Well, in particular, when you talk about the non-performing sector,
Mhm.
what we train you in our program, which is slightly different in most places, but we train you to approach this with the worst case scenario in mind. So
Mm.
we always create all of our budgets from what happens if we have to foreclose.
Right.
And in that, we are able to go to our sellers and say, this is the price we need based on, again, the worst case scenario.
Worst case, right. Yeah.
So that's one of our secrets to success, right? We're starting off as if the world's come to an end. So everything up from there is up. Okay.
Right. That's
and
good. I
so
like that.
and so in doing that, foreclosure is one of the main things that we have to keep in mind about what we'd have to do and have the team in place to do that. But again, depending on what type of paper you're buying, it's going to really determine whether you have to go through an actual foreclosure. You may be able to just simply do a forfeiture of contract or a cancellation of a contract. So
Okay.
this is a very, very specific field because it's very contract intensive. Okay, so
Right.
you
Yes,
have
that
to.
sounds like it. Yeah. Yeah.
The end of the day, it's contracts. I'm dealing with paperwork here. So if I buy a mortgage, then there's
Right.
certain things I have to do to foreclose and take possession of that property, and that would be going through a full foreclosure. The
Right.
secret is that there are often many other types of property out there. So if you're out there and you think you have a mortgage, but you might want to look at it, it might say at the top contract for deed or land contract. And
Right.
so
Yes, because it's not always the same thing. Like in California, the owner doesn't actually have the deed. The bank
there you
does. Is
go.
that correct?
That's what we take advantage of nationwide. It's not just California. I see you're trying to blame California for all the crazy stuff. I see it. I see it.
That's right.
We're not gonna
That's
let you
all
do
I
it.
know.
I'm
That's
not
good
doing
though. That's good.
I always like a little East Coast, West Coast rivalry, and I'm
Yeah,
on
you gotta
both
have it.
sides.
You
I
got it.
see
It's not. It hasn't gone anywhere.
it. But no, that is quite something that's done nationwide. Michigan does a lot of that. I mean, we
Okay.
love that stuff. So again, you just have to know what type of paper you're buying and be equipped to know what tools to mitigate
I
your
see.
loss. And so
Okay.
what I will tell you is that depending on which option you have, whether it's to go through a full foreclosure
Hmm.
or cancellation, just what you said right there is key. And one, the person's on the deed, the other isn't. And so we still own the land. And so there's no need to go through foreclosure. We can quick, fast,
Exactly.
and
Right.
deliver,
That's a
just
lot
cancel
easier.
that contract and go through an eviction process, which
Hmm.
if you're seasoned enough, that's going to be money to your ears because time is money. Foreclosures take a lot more time. They're a lot more
Yes.
costly,
Right.
right? And so all these little
Wow.
nuances and nuggets of knowledge is what helps you in this business to make money. It's not necessarily, and what used to love about flipping when I was young was the
Right.
energy made me money.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I put in some hammer work, got a new door, boom, $50,000
Exactly.
in my
Value
pocket.
just went up. Yeah.
But I painted boom. So now it's old people's game, as I like to say, where I just might know a little more than you, and that's how I'm going to make my money.
There you go. So it's the long game, right? Which I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
I like the long game. And so when people go through your program, obviously they're not going to be like employees of yours, but do they work directly with you, or are they just getting the tools they need to go do it on their own?
Well, there's two ways to work with us. We have an online platform,
Okay.
and you can go online to our website at AssistanceProgram.com. Check that out. That's completely hands-off. Not everybody's ready to deal with all this energy over here and everything.
Right.
I respect that, and it's really just
Yeah.
about how people learn. Some people learn better through repetition and watching videos over and over again.
Right.
You
Yes.
don't necessarily need that interactive piece. But for me, and this is why we built a program, the hands-on program, the juice of the program is that hands-on piece. And
Mhm.
yes, believe it or not, you do get to interact with me, the VP of training. So we have about 2 people that you bounce back and forth with to go through the training.
Okay.
One, because too much of Jasmine can be an overload.
I find that hard to believe, but also I can believe that at the same
Right.
time.
Also, at the same time, you're like, it's too early for all this energy.
Right.
And trust me, this is non-coffee related. I have no coffee. I'm not even allowed to drink coffee. So we
Yeah, I
mix
know
it up
people
to
like
you.
that.
Yes, that's me. We mix it up for you. You get, and again, it's also good because you have people from different backgrounds kind of helping you process what it is. But it's three phases through the program. The first phase,
Mhm.
you're going to do your first introductory call with me.
Okay.
You're going to set aside about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. That's probably the most torturous part of the program. But do know that everyone goes through that hazing period, as we call it.
Right, exactly, right. You got to get over that hump, and then you know you're ready for the next level, right?
Right. So you do a little hazing period with me for about 2 hours. We go through a new client packet, and that's where I really get to know you. You get to know me. This business is so much about relationships. So this is your time to ask me about why I do things, who I am. Get to know who you're buying notes from, because you shouldn't get to know who you're spending this type of money with if this is your agenda. And also with me. Okay. So that's the point where, as far as I'm concerned, where we all get to consider and sleep on it for a few days and say, is this really for us? But after that, we actually be committed to the program. Okay, buying a non-performing note. Here's the key, guys. We're buying someone else's trash.
Right. Yeah.
It's a non-performing note, right? So what I'm getting is what the banks don't want anymore. And so you have to understand and wrap your head around, what is this woman doing? She's buying stuff that the banks won't even look at or touch. This is a home the size of some of our garages out here in California. Okay, it looks disheveled. And the guy hasn't paid in 8 years. Why is Jasmine buying this?
That's the beauty of it. I like that. All right.
Right.
So is that similar to an assignment then, or is it different from an assignment?
Well, so when you speak about the assignment, that is actually the document and the process that we need to actually get the note over to us. Okay. And so when you buy a particular home, you know what you do. You go into escrow. You're right. 30 days. You do all that stuff. Yeah. With us, it's really simple. Whereas we just after the money exchanges hands, then you are expected to get an assignment of that mortgage or assignment of that contract for deed. Okay. And then you get the allotted. So there's about 2 or 3 different documents that we have to officially transfer over to you via notary and all that good stuff. And then you are actually now the holder in lieu of the bank. And so you're actually just fitting there in the bank's shoes.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. So it is a little bit like what I thought it was then. Okay. It's very, very interesting. Yeah. And
a lot less labor intensive when you think about it.
Say again? Sorry.
I was going to say a lot less labor intensive when you actually think about it.
Yeah, exactly right. You're just literally stepping into the shoes of another bank, right? Just the idea, because look, banks do this with performing loans all the time. Hey, you know what? I don't want this debt. You take it. That's part of the game.
People don't realize that. When we say part of the game, it's the entire game. So right. I've got a stat for you if you're interested. So, yes, we trade these notes on a daily basis. So much, okay? Statistic that I have is that every mortgage that is written, okay, so every time you go to a Wells Fargo or B of A, whatever these guys are, and they write a mortgage, those pieces of paper, that is traded enough to generate $1 million worth of commission amongst us in the secondary market.
Really?
Okay, so everything that they make on their front end, has nothing to do with it. But on the back end, if you're at home right now and you're watching this and you've ever received a letter in the mail from your servicer saying, please send your payment somewhere else.
Exactly right. Yeah.
That's us in the background trading a mortgage while you're sleeping. The nerve of us while you're sleeping. Okay?
And we're not doing it for free. You just wake up and you get a letter. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not doing it for free. So in that, my cohorts and I are out there making up to $1 million of commission for each mortgage out there. So the money out there is phenomenal. And I really think that we all deserve a shot at it should we have the capacity to grasp it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It sounds like it sounds interesting, obviously, right? Because it's one of those things where you kind of get to jump in and be a part of a world that people really, like you've said already multiple times, don't even know exists. But it's a very lucrative opportunity at the same time. Now, going back to what you said about the places where you're able to find the non-performing mortgages, are you limited to those places? And do you have to be familiar with? So are rules different from place to place as well, or is it one set of rules is the same in each place if they're eligible location?
Well, I'm limited to the inventory I get. So I don't get to call up a bank and say, do you have anything, is my neighbor's house up for foreclosure?
Right. Yeah.
let's get down to that, right? So what they release is what we have access to. As far as, this is what kind of mind boggles a lot of people to think, well, what you're doing is so difficult. It's 50 states, 50 different rules and laws and counties.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Right. So I get where you're going with this. And it's all about how you approach things. And so one of the things I pride ourselves on is getting you here so you can learn from a 30,000 foot view. That's what you need to know. And that's why when we started talking about some of the general things, not getting into the weeds of things. Right. We get into the weeds of things, everyone's going to hang up. This is difficult. I don't want to become a foreclosure attorney. I don't want to foreclose on people and be a bit bad. They have all these things going on to the head that, aren't necessarily so. So to us, we teach you how to delegate. First step to tackling that big of a scope of a challenge is delegation. Okay.
Right.
And so we have resources within our community that provide you all the tools, including the attorneys and the servicers who can take care of you in those states.
Takes care of my next question.
and locally, right? And so you
Right.
don't necessarily have to worry about that. But the answer, to be direct, is yes.
Yeah.
There are different rules and things for each state and even per county. So how do you handle that outside of getting the experts to handle it for you?
Right.
You handle that by understanding that overall, there's a few general rules to this game.
Right. Yeah.
And so
Certain
no matter
things are
what,
always the same. Yeah.
yeah, so no matter what city or state you're in, one city might call it a land contract.
Right. Yeah.
The other guy might call it a contract for deed.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Same thing
thing.
for all the majority of purposes on how they're going to be treated as exception to a mortgage. Another example I'd like to give you is 30,000-foot view is, a lot of times you're not, when you buy the mortgage, you're not necessarily too concerned with the condition of the house. Okay, this is kind of crazy, right? Like, what? Yeah, doesn't really matter the condition of the house. It's really the condition of the borrower.
Okay.
So I've purchased homes that literally have boarded up windows. Okay. Right. This is the underlying asset. I purchased the note, I should say, of the homes underlying have boarded up windows. But what I found is that I've gotten those notes to perform quicker than some of the ones. You could have someone right now, a realtor sitting in San Diego, not dealing well with the ups and downs of the market, not paying their mortgage. Nice BMW in the front, just paid the guy to man a credit loan. The fact is that they're not paying the monthly mortgage, it's non-performing.
Right.
The gentleman or young lady at the house that's boarded up, it could be a relative's house that passed away and the family's pitching in to pay to keep the house in the family.
Right.
We just want to know if the money's coming in on a regular basis.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So that actually then, going back to my understanding at least of the foreclosure process, right? You talk about a property that goes into lis pendens. Generally, the rule of thumb here in New York City is like 3 months, and the bank's going to file that lis pendent. How does it get to 8 years non-performing?
Well, that's a great question. And especially shout out to a few people out there. It looks like we have some people from Australia and other countries. So nice. They're like, what goes on in America?
Right, exactly.
That you can live in a house. So here's the deal. Banks are just everything that you can imagine.
Right.
Okay. And so I'm going to speak as nice as I can because these are my people. Okay?
Right. There you go.
But we're just what you can imagine. Okay. So let's first start that I want you to keep in mind is that a lot of the loans that we buy are in areas that the banks would never give loans to if they weren't forced to. Okay. So think about that. Right. There are a lot of places where they are forced to loans for equal opportunity purposes, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so these are the areas where, like I named, some of the best in Alabama. It's right next to Birmingham, bigger cities. But the bank's not interested in going out there. Why? Because of property values. Banks don't usually like to get into areas until property values hit close to 100,000, 80, 100,000.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Until then, we, the private investors, are supporting that market. Okay. And so when you think of all the places and spots in between the big cities, in between Texas and Austin and San Diego and Phoenix and
the glue,
Yeah. We think about all the glue that's holding America together. The people that service that, it's not the banks, okay? And so until the government came in and forced them to start lending in some of these areas, you see all the highlights, they were not going to do that. So let's take that in consideration. So first we have some loans on their portfolio that they wouldn't have given out if they didn't have to.
Right, exactly. They just had to do it.
So second, let's look at that and see how much attention are they paying to it, right? And not just because they didn't even want to have it in the first place, but again, the lower values. Everything they do is based on money and dollar signs. So they're not really going to put in any money to foreclose on that house that I would.
I see, right. Yeah.
And here's why. Let's talk about that. Bank of America's attorney, and again, I speak of them loosely. I do not know, but what I do know is that their attorney is not cheap, okay?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Those guys fly in private jets.
Yeah.
Okay. They to touch the file, it's typically anywhere from $5 to $10 grand just to open up the file.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
So that doesn't make much sense mathematically when you're trying to foreclose on a loan that's only $40,000.
I see. That's great. Okay. That right there is really, I think, the crux of it, right? People just don't understand those. I mean, saying that right there says so much.
Right. And so when you think about the cost advantage I have as a small bank, a small individual,
right.
I'm going to go hire the local guy who, by the way, he's local. He's probably sees you at the grocery store. So what I love about it is I add another level of intensity, right? I'm going to get
clearly, right.
You might ignore the letter from the big bank because
right, yeah.
I just saw you on the news. You don't even know where I live.
Right, exactly.
Okay, you don't care if I made a payment. How do I know? Because no one's came after my shack.
Right.
However, when you give it to an investor like myself, I care.
Right, yeah, exactly, right.
And furthermore, my attorney and my team, they don't cost that much, right? So typical foreclosure in Michigan may cost me from beginning to end, $1,500 to $2,500.
Wow.
So the cost difference right there, they're going to want to take their junk and give it to smaller funds, people like me, because so you get it. So that
right. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. They're basically waiting for you to come up and ask for it. Please take this off our hands.
Hey, and only until recently did they start charging. I mean, we used to get it for free, and that's what a lot of you guys are hearing. Wait, I can get it for 5 cents a dollar?
Right.
Not anymore.
Exactly. That ship has sailed.
But it's still very, very inexpensive.
Okay. That's phenomenal. And so is your understanding of everything, like obviously you said you have a degree in economics. Your understanding of this, though, this whole process, everything is kind of learned through experience, or is it something that you had earlier experience with, through your education, since we're talking about education as well?
Yeah, no. Listen, if you're asking me if there's a class you can sign up for this in school, there's not. It's a damn shame. Excuse me.
Right.
It's a shame.
Yeah. So we'll have to fix that.
Yeah, and mostly because, like you said, I'm just a product of the environment I was in, and so I was able to put things together and realize, hey, there's an opportunity right here. So if there's anything I would say about colleges is that, hey, yes, it helped me. But it probably helped me equally as much as my time on Wall Street, day trading, right? I mean, can you imagine the relationships I made there? They're the ones that I'm calling now to say, hey, you want to send me the inventory?
Yeah.
If I didn't go out there and meet people in New York, listen, I know you New Yorkers. I know myself. We're not sending stuff to people just because you're cute. You gotta
right. No, exactly. No, you got to know there's a return coming. Absolutely.
You got to know that person's going to close. They've got a reputation,
That's right.
And so, oh, look, we got a student of economics, Charles. Nice.
Nice. Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Checking out the stuff. I love my econ major.
I was just paying attention. I like it. Yeah.
So you guys get it.
Yeah. Oh, Bob Kiyosaki. Oh, yeah. There you go. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
Yes.
All right. So we've already gone through half an hour. That's fantastic already. I've got a couple more questions. I don't want to take up too much of your time, so we'll try not to go for like a whole hour.
Yeah, no worries. And if we have questions from the audience, I definitely can, and I can go back and elaborate on some things. Definitely.
I will say that, yeah. So anybody, we might as well put that out there. Anybody does have questions, feel free to write them in the chat. We have a Q&A and a chat, so if you put it out there, we'll make sure that we'll answer your question as well. I mean, obviously, I got tons of questions, but if you have some, we can get those answered as well. So my question more about your program. How long, you mentioned the hour and a half up front, like how long is it before it gets real, like before you feel comfortable releasing somebody into the market?
Well, the truth of the matter is, it's the minute you pay, we start jumping into things. So you're going to get your new client packet sent to you. We're going to ask you to complete that before you show up to the call with me. Then we're going to schedule that call. That call's usually scheduled within the first week or so, next couple of days, depending on when you call during the week, right? On a Wednesday, it might spill over to next week. But we try to get that first call out of the way as soon as possible, mostly because we know you guys are anxious. And a lot of you guys, let's be honest, you're just here to see the inventory. So I'm not going to play. Right. I don't play games with you in that sense. I just ask you to show up, get a new client done. We do this 2-hour thing. During that call, I'm actually going to manually add you to our distribution list so you can get the inventory. I'm also going to send you our latest tape so you have a chance to look at it right then. And so it's a very immersive program. We're going to leave you walking away with inventory so you can at least funnel through it and have some questions for your next few training calls. After that, Latrice, our executive assistant, is going to schedule your next 4 to 5 training calls with a trainer that's available. And you're going to spend an hour at a time with her. And really, at any point you feel comfortable, you can go ahead and purchase a note. Typically, the average person buys a note within 2 to 3 months after the program. Okay. And that gives them about a month or two to kind of receiving 2 or 3 tapes. So they get used to the inventory coming in, some experience with the trainer and the due diligence to feel comfortable about what they have. The longest I've seen someone do it is 8 months, barring any family issues. So
I'm assuming risk-averse person.
What did you say?
I'm assuming that's a risk-averse person.
Yeah, and or just things happening in the family, right? So a lot of people sign up and then they disappear and they're like, oh, I had to go take care of this and the other and get things together. So we're very flexible here with that. The training program is here for you to make what you get. So we spend 2 hours with you to find out what you are missing so we can just spend time filling in those gaps instead of just, taking it from the top. And you might know how to go through a spreadsheet already. So
exactly right. Yeah, you're not just giving everybody the same once over. You're actually going to tailor it to the person. Okay.
Right, because our goal is to make sure that you are able to buy in the end, right? And so a lot of people always ask me, I had a guy on the other call because it's New York, I want to know, what's in it for you, Jasmine? How do you make money? It was awesome, right?
You got it. That sounds about right. Yeah.
To be expected. And so why not? Should we go into that?
Yeah, I'm assuming, yeah, because I'm assuming you charge for it, you know, so.
Right. Well, the program, obviously there's a charge for the program, but where I make my money is when you get to the trade desk. So I made the program so that I align my interests with my members. Okay. And that's something that I suggest everyone take time to do, because when you start a business and it's successful, the success may just happen overnight or what seems to you, and you not have the time to really sit and think about what type of business you want to build.
Right.
And so I had the opportunity to sit down, and I thought that it would be great to build a business that had my interests in alignment with my members. And so
good idea.
In doing that, I found that the training program is what we do. You get your training. My goal is to get you through a successful experience, and successful doesn't mean all happy. It just means you made a lot of money. You're buying trash.
Right.
You're always going to assess, this excuse me, BPP licking that I took, was it worth it, right? Because it's mostly mental. It's mostly mental. You're buying a non-performing note. But you look at the return you made, and then you say, you know what? I want to go back and buy some more notes. I can do this. After all, I didn't have to leave my house. Okay, I didn't have to put up bandit signs last night in the middle of the night and dress up in dark and leave my family, right? And so you start thinking about it, and you say, as long as I can start controlling. Yeah. So that's what the gist of the program is.
Okay. So it reminds me actually a little bit of, I think it's kind of similar for investors, especially like you mentioned, people that are flipping, right? You know, especially, you know, after the crisis, you had a lot of people that were kind of going in, bundles of cash. Why don't I leave you this cash and you just walk out of the house? And then, you know, I'll just keep this for myself. And those people eventually grew in. They had, you know, like the bird dog, the guy who would go out and find the crappy house for them, give them a little bit of money to, you know, finder's fee. But that person then grows up and becomes an investor as well. And I knew a lot of those guys eventually became brokers, actually opened up real estate offices where it's like, okay, now I'm a broker. You either go find me a house to buy, or if I don't want it, you as an agent can sell it.
Right.
So it's nice. So you're bringing people in, teaching them how to do it, and then they're coming up with you with your ideals in mind, and obviously you can work with them.
You hit the nail on the head. It's just about building the community. In my mind, I have an opportunity to shape what the future of banking looks like, right? And if I can get enough of us in there becoming small cell banks and taking off some of the things that the banks just simply don't care to have, and in that you see it in the way they treat their borrowers, right?
Right, yeah.
And so if we can have a small, subtle wave of people like ourselves who are conscious to the fact there are individuals in there, and I don't have to run this at the bank. Wall Street is not who I'm answering to. I'm answering to my retirement account, who, by the way, it said 65% return was good enough. It was? Yeah, it said it's okay. You know,
that'll do. That'll definitely do.
You got Wall Street, they're making 200% return and have the nerve to be upset because it wasn't 250.
Right, yeah, well, that's the mentality, right? Yeah.
And it's the truth of the matter. So, and you'll learn a lot about that as you start becoming more involved in this, because you start to think like a banker. Now, that's one of the hazards. You don't want to become that guy.
Right. Well, speaking of which, though, is like that the next step for you? Like, do you eventually want to own like a legit bank, or are you happy like in this space?
Yeah, no, I'm happy in my space. I'm going to, my goal is to raise the right people, and they will take the spotlight, and I will disappear in the back and continue to bring in the inventory. The inventory is the thing that's the hardest to get. It doesn't matter how nice you are, how much money you have, how big a smile you can be. Oprah's not getting bank inventory. Now, if she asked for it, she'd get it. But she'd have to know to ask for it first. Yeah. And two, she'd be asked to buy it in bulk. Right. And she obviously could.
Exactly.
So those are the differences right there. So I just, in general, 100%, we're just looking to make sure that we can give these opportunities to the average person. When you think about, which is something I want to touch base on after we answer one of these questions here, but if you think about the type of money baked into these performing notes, you do start to realize that there's room for a lot more humanity in what's going on today.
Right. So I believe that for sure.
Yeah. So I saw this gentleman again, Charles from Australia. I wanted to. Yeah. He had a question that says, "What do you recommend to Aussie investors? The legalities, etc." So you're going to be excited to hear this, Charles.
I love that you have an answer. That's great. I'm excited to hear it. Because I was like, I'm not asking that.
Stick around. Here's the great news. I'm very excited. I almost feel like this is a setup because you do so well. Right. But believe it or not, I actually have a young lady named Nadine who lives in Australia who invests with us. And she did the entire training program. She did about 3 or 4 notes into this. So not only can I speak to it, but I'd even better to refer you to a neighbor out there of yours. Again, I'm not sure how close you live. Of course, it's a big continent. But at the end of the day, I'd love to refer you to my member. She's open to talking to people. She lives right there in Australia. And she can really get you hammer through all the questions you're going to have. Because I do have limited resources to answer that.
Right. Yeah.
But what I do know is that it works, and she's found a way to make it work. So a lot of the things that she's having trouble with as far as accessing her retirement funds and stuff, she's found a way to overcome.
Nice, because I do know that there are countries, particularly Canada and England, have a very similar system to what we have here in the U.S., probably based on ours. So it would make sense that it would apply in similar locales outside of our borders. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So it's just a lot of the people overseas are actually just investing in mortgage notes in America.
Oh, they're doing it here. Okay, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. And then as far as the ones that are overseas, it just depends on how the mortgage system is set up, right?
Okay.
To
Now,
see
actually,
how the debt's carried.
if they're able to do it here, then how do you do, like, do they have to have like an American bank account, things like that? Or
Yeah, we set up a LLC and all that good stuff. Yes.
Okay, cool. It makes it easier then.
Part
Because I
of the
know, like,
training
for
we can
example,
help you
like
get
with
that
Chinese
done.
money, obviously, like that's a little bit different. You have to have a lot of different things in place for that
It's
particular
definitely a little
country.
different.
Yeah, right. Euphemisms abound on that.
But it's doable. We work with a few people that use Chinese money. So like you pointed out today, our goal is to get you equipped on how to use this new tool and bring it to your community that you're already working with. So if you're already working within the international community, right, we can plug you into other communities within that community because we have some that work with it. But also we can just further how you stand out within that community, right? So you're the only one in your international group talking about how I can get involved with American mortgage notes.
That's good to give the platform as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's all about empowering our members to go out there and duplicate what we're doing here. Like you said, have that right mindset, right?
Right.
Get back to humanity of banking. And if we can spread that, I mean, here's the interesting fact: 3 billion mortgages a year. Okay, and my question is whether I have to figure out whether that's in dollar amount or actual mortgage number amount.
Right?
But 3 billion in mortgages is underwritten by the private sector alone on an annual basis. So that's not Wells Fargo. That's not Bank of America. That's just the cronies out there that are helping put the glue together. Okay.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
So that alone is enough for us to make some good money off and get involved, right? You start thinking things from a scalable. Like,
right. Because that was my next question. Like, is there a point where you scale out of the market? But as long as there are those areas that are underserved, there's always going to be another area that's underserved, another person who's underserved. So.
Yeah, the biggest trick in the book is what Wall Street does is they spend all this time advertising to us. So the only thing we think is the only way we can get a loan is by going to a big bank. Like, oh, if we don't have this credit score, then I'm not going to be able to get qualified.
Exactly, right. There's nothing.
Well before Wells Fargo and these people got into these areas, someone had to sell you that house. Okay, so just think about who bought that house in 1975 when it was sold for $50,000.
Right.
I tell you, the bank didn't give them that loan. Okay.
That's right.
It was a private investor because it's probably a rural area. Even where I live now, in 1985, there's like one road. Okay.
Right.
And so no one was trying to rush to lend to people in Poway, the horse town. But it's the private investors that came out there, and then the big banks come in and they start refinancing them out. Right.
Right.
And so this is where you have to understand that there's so many different buckets. Yes, you can play in the bank world and get whatever they want to give us. Then you can go out there and just deal with the private lenders and make sure as long as they're underwriting it right. So here's what I recommend. Our podcast, Naked Notes, season 17, I believe.
17, okay.
Not season the 7, so season 4, episode 17, excuse me.
Okay, right.
There you go.
That's pretty good, though. 4 seasons is good. We're still at 1.
So that episode, though, we have a gentleman named Russell Donald. He has a company called The Underwriter. It is very imperative, if you're listening to this, that you spend some time to check that out. He talks about the opportunities out there in the private sector. He actually is a gentleman who helps the private lenders create mortgages that mirror and have the same underwriting that the big banks have. Okay, so right now what's happening is the private sector is actually becoming more polished.
Right, that's just right. Yeah, exactly right. Yes, just civilizing the world.
Right, but get a load of this. He still talks to you about how he's giving loans to people that have credit scores as low as 550.
Okay, so he does also continues to lend on his own in addition to working on the other notes that are already coming in.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that he's not a lender himself. He's the underwriter. So all the private lenders like myself. So let's say you have a property in Brooklyn and you right now have a rental. You and I get to talk and I might convince you very smartly that you might want to sell that to him and put it on a note, right? Ask him if he wants to put a note on it so you can be more liquid and stop worrying about the toilets, the tenants, and trash. Put that on him, okay? And you just try to find out the mortgage, and you don't even call him, let the servicer do it. And so now if you turn that into a note, who's going to do that paperwork for you? Okay, so he's the guy who says, hey, Derek, you own this house and you want to sell it to this guy. Hey, guy, Derek says he wants to sell the house. Thank you guys for the terms. Derek's going to disappear, and I'm going to come in and get you all the paperwork and make sure it's Dodd-Frank compliant. So for that fee, you're going to have a legit loan that you can sell just like the banks.
Wow. That's great. Because I didn't even think about that, but that obviously would be a part of it, right? So yeah, just kind of just building on a little bit more, for lack of a better term, credibility, right? So it feels more like a real transaction and not something that's like, because even when we talk about things like hard money, right? Yeah, exactly.
Because
I remember the first time I learned about hard money, it's like, ooh, hard money, that's the mafia. It's like, no, it's not the mafia.
But yeah, so some of those guys, exactly, those are his clients, people who are renters, landlords who want to turn into lien lords, right? And start doing things like that. So that's really the opportunity for people to start really thinking about how do I become a bank and, you know, and take it to the next level, because it's very successful being rentals. Trust me, I know that. Yeah,
I'm sure. Yeah, there's less headache as well.
Yeah.
So like, do you work on other kinds of underperforming liens, for example, like tax liens? Speaking of lien lords, do you do that as well?
No, I do not. So the first position is where I am. First position.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So there's seconds, there's thirds. I do sell seconds and thirds to people more sophisticated, but that's not my game. Those are much more risk adverse.
Yes. Yeah.
So I focus on the first position space only, and they as far as like what we're doing with that inventory and how we're dispersing it to everyone, we just try to make sure that's out there even, and so everyone can take advantage of it. But
so you do the vetting basically.
Yeah, we vet the sellers and we both vet the buyers. So that's why you guys come in and go through the training process. My sellers feel comfortable knowing that I'm not just selling it to anybody that's met on LinkedIn. Okay,
right,
you've actually gone through a process.
Right.
You're not going to call them and say, oh, you know, this is a bad note, because we're buying bad notes. It's like, duh.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's the whole point.
Right. And that's what happens. We get people coming in from the retail market and they think you're going to buy something pretty and polished. This is not the retail market. So I like to let people know that there's B2C, business to consumer.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pain that goes into keeping the consumer happy. You've heard the consumers right, and there's 800 numbers and you can call, suggestion boxes.
Yes, better business bureaus and all that.
That does not happen on the banking side of the world. This is the B2B, bank to bank, not even business to business. It's bank to bank.
Exactly, it's bank to bank.
Big B, bold case, underline.
Right, dollar sign.
Right, dollar sign in the middle to bank. And so we expect everyone's big and tough and they know what they're doing. You wire money, you wired money, you know what you brought, you know how to mitigate it, you got the tools in place, and the wherewithal to get it across the line and make it profitable, right? And that's the difference. We're buying assets that the average American will look at and run because they could not figure out how to extract profit from a piece of paper that has not been performing for 10 some odd years.
That's amazing. And what I like about it also is it sounds like the banks have no reason to mess around with you. You know, it's pretty straightforward. And when you're dealing with them, it's really just a matter of having the know-how and just going forward with it. Would you say that's about right?
Yep, 100%. Especially because, again, we're buying their junk. So
right, exactly. They want to get rid of it. Yeah.
Right, because the other piece of that is the litigation part. You have to understand these big banks have no capacity to actually go and fight against a mom and pop, right? I've just bought a note. It's the cutest little thing in Houston, Texas. And all my research suggests that there's gentrification going on all around. And there's one little lady wants to sell her house. It's like up.
Right. Exactly.
Okay? And it's the smallest little rundown house. It needs at least $30,000 in renovations from what the bank has been able to ascertain, because I've seen all the notes. Houses around them going for $150,000.
Right.
Okay. She's got new construction over here. It's all coming in around. So I purchased this note because the big banks are just going to try to bully her out of it.
Right, exactly. That's it. Right. Yeah. Harshly worded letters and stuff.
Yeah. As long as she's paying the mortgage, we're gonna keep her there.
Right.
We're gonna try our best to keep her in the house. But at the end of the day, what we do know is we have that upside, right? If things do go too sour, then we can go in and we'll take possession of the property and things of that nature. But it's just very interesting to understand that buying something that other people would rather not deal with. And so them going into foreclose on that lady, that's going to hit Channel 10 News.
Right, yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Litigation is not up for them. So they would rather transfer their small balance loans to someone like me.
Right.
Okay. Because the attorney's going to say, look, it's Bank Day Jasmine. Okay. I don't know what to tell you. She's foreclosing on you. You can try to go to Channel 10, but Channel 10 they're not interested in the story. It's
not at all. It's not spicy at all. It's not spicy enough. Oh, I love it. I love it. That is fantastic. All right. So let me just check the Q&A here. I do see the numbers are blowing up. What do we have here? All right. So this is a good question. So after the training, how much money does one need to bring to the table to start to, or to consider purchasing a small note? This is a person who does have a mortgage background. Yeah, from '07. So, no offense, not the most credible mortgage background, but you have
But
it.
nonetheless, we all take it all with us because
Yeah.
you're going to bring some of those horror stories that I can actually relate to and tell you how we got past it. So,
Right.
But yeah, so after the training, here's what I tell you. It all includes it. I come up, my flat answer is this. I tell people to have on average between 25 to 35,000 to get in and out of everything successfully. And this is what that comprises of, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The actual hands-on program is $69.95. So that's $7,000 right there, okay?
Right.
The secret is that you are able to bring a partner, or you can ask Latrice if she has someone looking for a partner. So you can split that in half if you want. So you get to bring one other partner for that. But you're going to bring about $7,000 if you want to do the program yourself, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to find your next note. Now, our notes are on average I've sold notes as low as $4,000. Those are going to take a long time to find and vet out, make sure they're legit.
Right.
And it's not just trash.
Right.
And the average notes between 15,000 and 25,000. So you're going to take that 7,000 you spend on training, add the other 20,000 that you bought a note with on average. Now you're at 27,000. Okay.
Right.
And so in retrospect, what you're going to see is that foreclosure process, if you have to take possession of the property,
mm-hmm.
I tell you to set aside another $5,000 to do that.
Right. Like a nest egg.
So,
right.
You're going to have the 7,000 for the training. You're going to buy a note anywhere from 15 to 20,000. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a $15,000 note. Now you're in that 22. Then you're going to have another 5,000 set aside for all the ancillary costs, for paying the attorney, to do the post and pub, to reach out to the guy to find out if he's looking to do a deed in lieu. So there's a lot of exit strategies on the below. You may not have to go through all that money to foreclose,
but you have to know.
But we told you how we train you. You're going to put that money aside, so there's no, oh, Lord, it's me, I can't take care of this. No, we're going to get this to the note. So you're going to, every time you have to write a check, you're going to write that check. You're going to get possession of that house. And so that will take you through the training of your first note, to purchase of your first note, which includes the acquisition, then it'll take you through the workout of it. Once you work that out and get profit, that's when the program's over. We give you a graduation letter, and we expect you to hopefully look at things and say, hey, I want to buy another note. Right. So then you're going to go directly to our trade desk, and you have access to that directly. You still have all of our resources to lean on. We're still there to help you, but it's not a day-to-day training anymore. Right. So hopefully that answered your question as far as how much money you want to bring to the table to be successful and why you need it.
And also, so do you have a platform that's associated with that? Do you have a website and tools, things like that? Or is it more like a process and you say, well, we use this, this, and this, and now you have access to it?
It's actually more the latter, but it's a little bit of both. So we definitely have a process and we release things as needed. Here's what I found about this business. People with education and mortgage from 2007, as strong as a background as you have currently, we still can trip ourselves up if we give you too much in the beginning. Okay?
Right, exactly.
And this is a business where you do want to, at least in my opinion, learn the product at least once. Walk through a note first. A lot of people are going to come, hey, I know all this information. I want to skip directly to brokering a note. I have a problem with that because you're brokering something you don't know about. So at least work through a note. So when you sell someone, you are confident. You can display that confidence and like, look, here's a note. If you need anything, I'm on standby. I can answer your questions. Like I've been through this before. And so a lot of us with this education and experience, what we try to do is allow that to have a skip the line. And every single time I've seen that make people crash and burn. So we've distilled this program down to the very little that you have to do because, as you can see, I'm a busybody.
Right, yeah. In the best way possible, though. In the best way, because your mind is going just as fast.
It's like, boom. So we've distilled it down to the minimum. So we encourage you not to take any shortcuts. And then that's how you're going to be successful with this program. Because, the processes are very important. And I can tell you today the importance of a servicer, but I guarantee you once you buy a note, guess what you're going to want to ask me? What's the importance of the servicer again?
Well, it's always the way it is. It's always the way it is. People retain the 5% that really grab their attention. And the other details, we'll ask it again 15 more times later.
So it's 100% built on that philosophy. So we have different price points. For those of you who are listening right now, November 14th and 15th. So in 2 weeks from now, we're actually going to hold our first online mortgage note lab. So it's the least expensive I've ever trained for, just because we're online. I've never done it before. So for $300, you can attend online and I will walk through my entire proprietary process. And you're going to get access to the inventory for 2 months just for showing up and listening and hoping it makes sense. So
might have to check
if
that
you're curious, you got 2 days to spend with me to actually learn it. But again, you need to at least go through it mentally before we start sending you inventory, because these are people's names and addresses, right?
Right, they're live. These are live leads you're talking about, not like
Yes, sir.
practice leads. These are the Glengarry leads.
I love it. I love it.
That's
I
right.
love it.
You got to slip it in
ABC.
there. All right, so that was, well, hold on, I think we just got another one. Let me see here. Ah, thank you. So we're getting the thanks, powerful information. People are very happy
Good
with
stuff.
what they're learning today. I've learned a lot. I love it. I'm very, very impressed. And I'm really looking forward to learning more because we've spoken a couple of times and I've gotten the gist of what you do, but now I have a much better kind of understanding for it. And it's very interesting. I definitely have some people I'm going to send your way.
Well, check us out on Eventbrite. We just launched that Mortgage Note Lab class, and then you guys can always find me on LinkedIn. As I mentioned before, my last name is spelled Willois.
That's right.
And then, of course, through our website, we've got live chat, and my executive assistant is there. She can say, I just saw Jasmine. Can you get me on the phone with her?
There you go. Right, that's it.
But yeah, we're open book, and we really want to engage with people who are very thirsty for this type of opportunity.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I'm at 7 o'clock on the dot here on the East Coast.
Ooh.
And I love that. I love it when conversation flies by. I mean, it's been an hour and it felt like it's been a couple of minutes. I really, really appreciate it when I get to learn something and feel good about it and be entertained at the same time. You are fantastic. I'm really glad I got to spend this hour with you. I really appreciate you sharing this time with us.
As well, man. And just so you know, if it wasn't for quarantine, I'm usually in New York every October, so we would have met in person. So I look forward to that.
We're definitely going to have to do that. In fact, the last person you recommended to me, I started following her on Instagram. I'm going to follow up with her and actually do an introduction.
Dr.
Yeah.
Teresa.
Yes, exactly. So like I haven't found the time. October's been super busy for me, but I need to sit down and start working on November and building towards next year. So she's definitely someone I plan on following up with. So you have a great network as well. And I love the fact that you're building something. You're educating people and you're building a network. Those are the two things that I completely believe in. That's how I've built my business as well. And I'm really happy to see that people understand that those are the only ways to really succeed and make money these days. So
that's long term right there.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. So thank you very much, Jasmine Willois. Again, Naked Notes. She's got a podcast. She's got a website. She's got a training program. You've got the golf outing. You're not hard to find, you know. And so definitely appreciate it. You know who to look for. You'll know her when you see her. So I want to thank you for your time. Thank everybody for joining us, both live and in recording land. This is Derek
pleasure,
Hall,
man.
Charter Real Estate School, New York Network, NYC Network Group, signing off. Everybody, have a great day.
Take care.